Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Donut Hole. You're a place where a couple of guys sit around and pontificate. My name's Paul.
And I'm Jason.
And we're coming at you from our studios here in Nashville. So, as I'm sure our viewers can see, we don't have any microphones in front of us at the moment.
A little bit of a change for us.
Yeah, so we're currently going to be testing out a couple of new lavalier microphones or lapel mics that we're currently wearing at the moment. We're also going to use our the other condenser microphones that we were kind of using before with a kind of a more of a up-close pattern on them. Just kind of test the audio footage and see how, or the audio, and see how that works out for you guys. Unfortunately, last week we had a pretty good show all done and said and done. But we lost all the primary footage on the video because the SD card failed on us. And the audio, we had weird squeals and squeaks and stuff going on. So that was also not good. I know most of your guys' complaints so far has been some of the production value stuff, and it's something we're working on. We are currently using a new camera on this one. This one's the same, one of the other same cameras we've been using. But unfortunately, this camera here likes to turn itself off after 25 minutes or so.
Which is why we have the 20-minute segment format that we do currently.
Exactly. And while we kind of like to maintain this kind of interview style format where we kind of sit and talk, we may end up having to change it up to more of a tabletop type discussion if it turns out these lavalier microphones don't cut it and the regular condenser mics are better just up in our face. So we're going to test that out and kind of see how that goes. I guess let's do a quick recap of last week's show since we lost it. So I know the first thing we talked about was Paul Krugman, the economist who's an idiot. That's going to be the short way to put it. What was kind of the notion of what that was about?
I think that his claim was that centrism is becoming radical, and he falsely claimed that the right wing is moving further right, but that the left wing is not moving further left. So therefore, centrist is being dragged right.
Yeah, which we already know is not really the case. However, both sides are becoming more polarized, which is obvious. Definitely you can see that. But on the flip side, if you look at the platforms of the Republican Party, they've moved slightly left, whereas the standard platform of the Democrat platform of the United States has moved extremely left, especially with some of the new...
On social issues mostly, yes.
Yeah, on social issues mostly. And a lot of it on fiscal policy as well.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with more of a centrist view of saying, okay, some of these ideas are good, some of these ideas are bad. And just moving forward with that. But so, the notion to say that radical centrism is a problem is just asinine.
Well, it was just basically, it's this direct reaction to Howard Schultz, who is now you see him demonized in the mainstream press because he said, I'm going to run as an independent. I don't want to be a Republican. I don't want to be a Democrat. And I think the Democrats are very angry with him and the liberals because he was a lifelong supporter of Democrat causes, voted Democrat, gave to Democrat candidates. So when he came out as an independent, they didn't really like that.
Yeah.
And it seems like a lot of it is where it's coming from, just personal attacks against him.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's continue moving forward again, really condensing down last week's show into just the nuts and bolts of it. Because
bite-sized chunks, yeah.
So I think the other thing we were going to talk about was the Green New Deal, or we did talk about. Of course, that's being brought forth by AOC and various other people in the legislative in Congress. I can't talk today. And especially the new up-and-comers that they're coming in. And they're all pushing the notion of this Green New Deal, which is supposed to be a 10-year plan, right? Or is it
yes, a series of 10-year plans.
A series of 10-year plans.
Yeah.
And of course, with that, we're looking at things such as new transportation industry. They're going to totally decimate it. Everything's got to be, they want to kill off airlines entirely, pretty much, for domestic travel, move everything with a high-speed rail. And I don't know.
Electric cars. Now, developments have happened since this show was obviously supposed to be last week, and as I was telling you earlier, the news cycle moves at 100 miles an hour. So, there has recently been claims that the what was released initially was not what we wanted to release. Maybe some staffer had messed it up. For example, the wording that people who are unwilling to work should receive economic security, unable to or unwilling. That supposedly was not, supposed to be said I believe that they had made a claim that eliminating air travel was not supposed to be said, or it should have been reduction. So, they've already walked back a few of these things. But yeah, initially on the face of it, that's what they came out with, and I think a lot of it's public reaction is when they walked it back.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I mean, high-speed rail is great if you're in a smaller country, or you're China and you're doing part of this new Silk Road initiative where you're doing it for commerce. Putting goods and service or goods on these high-speed rails as well.
Yeah.
But in a country like the United States, it really isn't really is feasible. And again, everybody's in a certain population center, and then you got these little tiny villages outside. So, like I said, it's not going to work in the United States. We're too sprawled out.
And since we recorded our last episode, California just recently canceled their high-speed rail initiative due to cost overruns and just not being feasible.
Yeah, which just brings it into
it just falls right in there. Yeah.
And then even with our standard trains, they're look at Amtrak. I mean, it's decaying.
Yeah, passenger train. Now, freight trains do great in this country because they pay for their own infrastructure. And, I mean, you look every time you go down your freight train tracks, you got those, the inspection vehicles you see going on the pickups that have the wheels and where they can go on the train tracks. But you don't see that on the, you don't see a passenger rail like that. The freight trains do well. But, passenger rail is not in good shape in this country.
No. Some of the other things I think that we're talking about, let's look over last week's notes. Like I said, the guaranteed job thing, that's straight out of the Soviet Union. They also wanted Medicare for all. And the unwilling or unable to work thing. And it's kind of funny you said the public outcry that they've kind of started to walk that back.
Yeah.
So really could just shown who's really the radical in this instance.
Well, and I think some of the leaders of the Democrat Party that have a little bit cooler heads are kind of like, hey, put on the brakes.
Yeah.
This is too much, even for some of them, But the media, they kind of overplayed their hand with this new radical, all these young, fresh faces of, the Democrat Party. They've really overplayed their hand because they're starting to go even further left than the established Democrat Party. So it's creating a bit of a fissure there as well.
Yeah. All right. So I think, it was a very, very condensed version of what we had last week.
And nobody will remember the Green New Deal in about 2 weeks.
No, I think they will, because I think they're going to try to rehash it and rebrand it. And
maybe make it more moderate.
Yeah. More centrist.
Yeah. Those radical centrists.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, I guess we're going to take a break here and kind of switch things around a little bit and go over to the condenser mics, and we'll pick up with this week's show. See you then. Hi, I would like to take a minute to tell you a bit about HeroSong. HeroSong is a 501c3 non-for-profit organization set up to record the music of veterans, active duty, and first responders who also have musical ambitions. Music is great for the soul, and that's what makes us unique and ever so wonderful. Please check them out and consider giving them your support. Again, that's at herosong.org. Thanks. Alrighty guys, we're back from the break. So we're doing a lot of audio testing with some various things, and we noticed, actually I'm going to go ahead and do this now. I'm going to pull myself right up on the microphone so you guys can hear the audio on this. For some reason, we've narrowed down what part of the problem is. And what part of the problem apparently appears to be is there's not really much of a difference one way or another with our digital interface that's interfacing into the computer to record the audio currently. So I think next week, we're going to try and figure out a different audio recording, like maybe one of those Tascams or something like that, and actually record the audio that way, because that seems to be one of the other issues we've been having. Hopefully the video quality is a little bit better. We have upgraded part of that, and it's going to be one of those things where it's a progress. We're new at this. This isn't exactly, we're not like professional, AV guys, and we both have a little bit of background in live sound, but live sound versus recorded sound, totally different animals. So that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, I mean, we discovered we're actually sounding really good coming out of the mixer. We're just losing something in translation to the computer, and we don't know if it's the interface. We don't know. So we're just going to try a new route next week and hopefully have some better sound for you guys.
Yeah, because we've been using the headphones to monitor the audio, and the audio in the mixer is on point. It's right where you would want it, and for some reason it's not being delivered. So, like
like I said, so it's probably lost somewhere in the computer. So anyway, let's go ahead and get back to the show.
Sure.
Because we've kind of spent like the last hour farting around with this something. So I guess let's go ahead and talk about the Trump's emergency. So recently, obviously, the new budget was passed and signed in, and Trump didn't get what he wanted, and he decided to declare a state of national emergency to allocate new funds for the border wall.
Yeah.
So what's your take on all of
it? My take on well, first of all, I think all of this could have been prevented if there was a compromise to be reached. We had a situation where both sides were playing the government shutdown against the other side, and it ended up just being a bunch of politics. Because if they would have given Trump the $5 billion, that would be nowhere near enough money to build an entire border wall across the entire border, and they could have just done it and said, "Hey, whatever, go away." And that would not have nearly accomplished what Trump wants, this massive wall all the way across the border. So, the effect would not be Trump gets his massive wall, and they wouldn't have this national state of emergency. And it's just both sides playing politics with each other to see who's going to look bad and who's going to look good to the American public. Which, frankly, I'm upset at both sides on this. I think it's just a debacle.
Yeah, I think that's probably a pretty good way to look at it. The only thing, I get why Trump did what he did. Yeah, he's like, I'm going to try to make as good on my promise as possible. But on the flip side, I don't like how this opens the door for future things. We could have, some crazy mass shooter in the future, and, we have a different administration, and they're like, oh, state of national emergency, we're confiscating weapons.
Right, Nancy Pelosi said as much, yeah.
I don't think that's a good thing. I think it's opened the door into a really dangerous territory. And we're getting to a point now, I think, where it seems that Congress really just doesn't do anything.
Yeah, that's the problem, is they want to retain their perpetual power forever. And my personal opinion is term limits would fix a lot of this, because if they can't get reelected, they're not going to worry about getting reelected so much, because you can't. So they would be willing to do more of what they actually believe in rather than just pandering. What they like to do is pander to their base, tell their base one thing, then never do it. And I hear Democrats and Republicans complain about the same thing. Oh, my party's so weak, they make all these promises and they never do it. Well, it's both sides just pandering to their base, they get elected, and then they just go along to get along.
Yeah. And ultimately, that's just crap.
Yeah.
And moreover, it's since they're actually not passing laws or anything, there's really not even so much of a power thing. I think it's more the fact that they get to be in this position of quote unquote power. They'll pass little minuscule BS stuff, usually pork bills, in which they just they spend a lot of money and help this little group out with the tax. They take tax money and will help this group out, help that group out, and basically enrich themselves. And I think what it's become is a get rich quick scheme for these people, because at the end of the day, they get to stay in this level of, not even really power, it's more prestige, and live this fat cat lifestyle with all this money rolling in. And they get, taken care of fairly well financially because of it. And that's what it's become. It's become more of a cash cow for these groups. And then at the same time, all their real power is being ceded over to different branches of government.
Yes.
Which, hey, you want to see how a republic dies? You're in the midst of it right now, guys.
Right.
This is the death of the American Republic.
Right. And that's why they freaked out so much about the Supreme Court, because that's increasingly where the power lies, and that and the presidency. It started with Barack Obama signing, a ton of executive orders very publicly. I have a pen and a phone comment.
Yeah.
Well, and Trump is doing the same thing. And it's because nothing can get done in Congress. And so, power vacuum.
Yeah.
It's going to be filled somewhere. And the other two branches are picking it up. And those other two branches were never intended to have that kind of power.
Oh, exactly. And moreover, the Supreme Court should not be in a position where it's legislating or making, basically the rules as they go. This is one of the things that really irritates me. The Supreme Court should be fairly nonpartisan. They should be pretty cut and dry down the center, straight down the center. It's like, this is what the Constitution says you can do, this is what it says you can't do, and we're going to rule accordingly. And that's it. There doesn't need to be so much more of this, we've got this many Republican justices, this many Democrats. Like, that shouldn't even be a thing.
Right.
And when it comes to Congress, what I think at the end of the day, term limits are essential. And I think slashing salaries to something that's very, minuscule compared to what they're getting now. And then same thing, knock their benefits down. So only the people that want to be there are there.
Right.
The people that actually want to help the government,
Well,
help America.
Yeah, the original idea of a citizen legislator.
Exactly.
It's not. This is not a full-time job, folks.
Yeah.
The founding fathers never intended it to be a full-time job. So yeah, hey, pay them what pay them more than an average American gets paid. Pay them $50,000-$60,000 a year.
Yeah.
And also very strictly enforce insider trading. All these things. If you catch them enriching themselves through the bills they pass, throw them in jail.
Exactly. There should be like an anti-corruption bill passed in that regard.
Yeah.
So you can enrich yourself with your own actions in the legislative branch. You can't. And I have no problem, even hooking them up, because I understand housing's expensive as hell.
Sure.
Easy. So build an apartment complex, house them all in that for when they're in session.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only for when they're in session. They can bring their families and all that, 3-bedroom apartment or what have you, that's fine. And make them fairly nice, quote, luxury apartments or whatever. Even do like marble and granite or whatever, that's fine, I don't care. At the end of the day, it's going to be a hell of a lot cheaper than what we're doing now.
Yes.
House them in that. Here's your, 60 grand or whatever for going and doing your job as far as taking care of governmental needs and looking after the American people, and passing laws that need to be passed and that sort. But yeah, let's slash their salaries into a third of what it is. Give them a two-term term on it and call it a day.
Yeah, I agree.
And I even if and maybe even if they're even with term limits, you can do it like 2 terms. You can serve 2 terms, and then you have to be out for X amount of time before you can go back. If they felt like they had that calling again to help.
Well, but you have you have different ways you can serve. You can be a congressperson. You can be a senator. You can run for president. So. Say you served your term in Congress, you can't be a member of the House anymore. You can run as a senator.
You could do that, yeah. So I guess it's still open.
Right.
Two-term limit, call it a day.
So, a House is 2 years is the term.
Is it 2 or is it 4?
I think it's 2. That's one thing both of us should know, but I do think it's 2. That's why we have we have the midterms every 2 years. Now, senators are 6.
Well, no,
that's why you vote on half the senators and half the senators.
But not all of the congressmen, the ones in the House, are up every 2 years.
So I have to look into that. But either way, I know senators are 6. So 2 terms for a senator, that's 12 years.
Yeah.
And you combine that with, say you're correct about that 4 years, 8, well, that's 20 years.
Yeah.
So if you get 2 terms in the House, 2 terms in the Senate, there's 20 years right there. So it's not exactly like, hey, you can still be a legislator and serve the people for 20 years. You just can't serve in that same role.
Yeah.
For more than 2 terms.
That works. I think that's good. I think that's the way we should move forward with things.
Yeah.
Too bad people like you and I aren't making the rules.
Yeah, really.
All right. So there's Trump's emergency. I guess let's talk about the Amazon bit in New York, because that's also in the news right now.
Yeah, of course, we're talking about old AOC again, and she's making comments of how, some tough legislators really fought and, didn't give the tax break to Amazon. Well, that's caused, and this isn't really a left-right thing. I think it's because you have a lot of Democrats upset that, Bill de Blasio came out and was upset that they didn't get the jobs because it was IT jobs. It was good, high-paying jobs, 25 to 40,000, I believe the estimate was. So, that's become an issue of, well, do you want the jobs or, do you want to basically not have crony capitalism per se? And it's a tough question because you can kind of wind up on either side of it. And you see what happened in New York. You didn't give them the business environment they wanted. They just left.
Yeah. And this is where I fall on it. I mean, I don't mind giving a good business environment. I mean, if you look at a place like Hong Kong, which I believe ranks in the top 5 in as far as national freedom index in the world, above the United States, for those of you watching. They have a very good business environment.
Yeah.
Singapore's the same way. They have a very good business environment. Yeah. And you can do that without compromising handing out money, per se, tax money. The idea of giving $25 million to build a helipad pisses me off. At the same time, I have no problem saying, okay, we're going to lower you down to a very low tax bracket for X amount of years because we want to incite you to do business here. and
Yeah.
hire people. And because the more people you hire, the more people are working,
Mhm.
the better society is in general for that, because it gives people a sense of
Mhm.
purpose. They're making money, they're moving forward with their lives. And also, there is also the notion of tax revenue based off the other people's income, because they're employed now with good jobs.
Right. You're actually going to increase tax revenue
Yeah.
by having more jobs in your district.
More
Yeah.
jobs, even at a lower rate, because more people working, they're making more money.
They're paying
you know.
income taxes. They're paying property taxes. Whatever comes
Yeah,
with that.
I mean, at the end of the day, I think you'd probably rather have 10% of 100,000 versus 30% of 30.
Yeah.
And that's really what it's boiling down to with some of these the way tax structures, the way taxes are structured in the United States currently. The left really wants to push it where, okay, if you make anything more than this amount of money, we're going to tax you at this insane rate. And as such, it brings productivity down. And
Yeah.
thusly, everyone's stuck at that $30,000 job.
Right.
Um,
Well, when I've heard things like we're going to tax the 1% at $90,000. Well, when you actually do the math on this, because obviously these young Democrat senators aren't too good at math, it seems like. But you do the math on so you actually look at the top 1% as any household that makes $400,000 a year or more.
Yeah.
Between say one person makes $100,000, the other person in the couple makes $300,000. They pull in $400,000. Okay, so they're married, filing jointly. They're paying 90%. They're making $40,000 a year.
yeah.
That's what they're pulling home. So where's their incentive to go get the high-paying jobs if they're only making $40,000 a year as a household?
Mm-hmm.
Why don't they just go make $40,000 each and make $80,000?
Mm-hmm.
It's just
And
ridiculous.
file single.
Yeah,
Because they can do that.
yeah, and pay 15% taxes.
Mm-hmm.
And people will do the math, and they will figure that out if you have these kind of insane tax rates. They'll find out. I remember it happened in a factory I worked at. It was one of the first jobs I ever had,
Mm-hmm.
where people would get a raise and it put them in the next tax bracket, and they actually brought home less money.
Mm-hmm.
And they would go into the office and they would say, "I'm actually bringing home less money, and even on my tax returns, I've done the math. Can you lower my wage by a quarter?" And of course, the factory said, "Yes, of course." and that's the effect you're going to get with this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and that's insane when you have to go into the boss and say, hey, can you lower my pay?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because now I'm paying way the hell more in taxes than I should be.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that actually hit really hard when I think it was my first year living on my own. I was like 19 years old. I was in college and I made like $12,000 that year.
Mm-hmm.
I was working part-time, going to school full-time, supporting myself. But the job I had, it was one of the ones where you get a 1099, which is basically everything that happens nowadays for me. And I didn't really know anything about deductions or any of this, so I just keyed in my numbers and turned it in. It's like, you owe $1,000, and it's like, I made $12,000. What the hell?
Mm-hmm.
Very quickly I learned that with 1099 forms you need to
Yes.
keep track of everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's absolutely insane. I mean, $10,000, $12,000 a year. I mean, that's damn near poverty level, and yet $1,000 tax liability.
And we also we really have to address too that there's a lot of people out there that make decent money that pay no taxes effectively. And I'm not just talking about billionaires because it applies to them too, but it applies to I heard a story recently, a friend of a friend, kind of an acquaintance thing. I won't mention names. Guy made about $100,000. Well, he has 5 children, which is his own choice to have 5 children. He's married, he has 5 children.
Yeah.
Well, he's basically getting every single dime he paid back in taxes because he has 5 children, where he makes $100,000 a year. I'm not going to say what I made on the podcast, but considerably lower than that on my handyman business, that I do on the side there. And I'm going to end up paying, definitely more than he did because he paid 0.
Yeah.
And those kind of things are just ridiculous. This man makes $100,000 a year. He's obviously not poor. The whole structure is just completely messed up.
Yeah.
Which is why you have to have these Amazon type things of, if they don't get a break, it doesn't make sense for them to go there because the structure is so messed up. And as we were talking earlier, I'm all for giving corporations breaks on taxes. I'm like you, don't give them money. That's ridiculous. The government should never give a corporation money. But cutting the taxes, but do it across the board for everybody. And just like you had mentioned, just make it a package.
Yeah.
You want to move to our city, you want to move to our state, we're going to, give you this certain rate for 2 years, but it doesn't matter what company you are, any company.
Yeah.
And just allow more to come in.
Exactly, because ultimately you want to foster a situation where businesses can thrive, bolster the economy, provide jobs for people, and opportunities, and not stifle that.
Mhm.
And at the same time, you don't want to be handing, oh, you're coming to our city, here's a check. That's not okay.
But this Amazon deal was not that.
Mhm.
And apparently AOC had mentioned that, we can just spend that, I believe that whatever they were quoting, it was $35 billion, something like that, in tax savings. We'll just spend that on education, healthcare, and all this. She didn't even understand that this is not money they're giving them. It's money that it's a tax abatement.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was just, and to see people, this is what drives me nuts about the American populace, is to see them going, yeah, we could spend, what do you mean spend it? There's no money now.
Yeah.
If there's no Amazon coming there, there's no money.
Mm-hmm.
There's no $35 billion. There's nothing. Situation is the same as it was a month ago.
Yeah.
So nothing got done. No growth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which ultimately is not going to help anybody.
Yeah. And people were slamming Amazon for it, but let's be honest. Amazon thought they had a deal, and the deal was kind of pulled out from under them, and they just went home.
Yeah, which is what you're going to start seeing with a lot of companies too, especially if we continue to have negative economic environments for companies in the United States. And you're starting to see this already. We've already seen the outsourcing of like manufacturing jobs. You're going to start seeing the outsourcing of damn near everything. I mean, hell, if I'm not mistaken, Burger King is not even incorporated in the United States any longer.
Wow.
If I'm not mistaken, it's either somewhere in the Caribbean or possibly Canada, but it's not incorporated in the United States any longer. It hasn't been for years. So I mean, if it's that big, a big, American fast food chain is no longer in the United States, I mean, that should be, a giant red flag saying, hey, maybe we need to change our structures of things in the United States.
Oh, and I do find it odd how you have a certain segment of the population who thinks that, these big evil corporations need to pay a lot of taxes. Well, corporations are made of people.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, what does it matter what a corporation's profit are? It matters because we do tax income.
Mm-hmm.
It matters what a person's profit is.
Mm-hmm.
So really, it's kind of a double tax because somebody's receiving that money.
Yeah.
Now, if the corporation keeps the money and reinvests in the corporation, that's a different thing. But I've never understood that state of mind.
Mm-hmm.
That corporations need to pay more taxes. It's funny because it's the same people who would say corporations aren't people, when it comes to political spending, how they were ruled that corporations were people.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to taxes, they argue that corporations are people.
Yeah, on the flip side, it's really funny looking at the totality of everything, because if you look at Europe, right, like things are taxed at a certain rate and that's it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's fairly inclusive and it's fairly high.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's higher than it should be. But that said, people generally aren't multi-taxed, right? In the United States, it's like, our income tax is set here, our corporate tax is set here, this tax is here and here and here and here. And all said and done, you add it all together, we're not paying more taxes than people in Europe with none or damn near none of the benefits that you get in Europe.
Yeah.
So, what the hell?
Which is why I've been a proponent for a national sales tax for years. Because I used to like the flat tax, but then I did realize that the flat tax does disproportionately hurt poor people because people who are legitimately poor who pay actually they pay less than zero. They get tax refunds above what they paid in.
Yeah.
And you start making them pay 12% on their income. That's probably too much of a burden for people in poverty.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand that, and that is when I finally said, maybe the flat tax isn't such a great idea. Now, for middle class and above, it's fine. It's a good idea. But that's why I'm totally for national sales tax while you eliminate the income tax.
Well, you'd have to do that, get away with, or you'd have to not do it on if you're worried about poor people, you'd have to do it on non-essentials.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
absolutely. You would do it on everything but clothing and food.
Okay.
Keep it simple, because our government programs love to get complex very quickly.
Yeah.
And instead of, is it batteries? No, just clothing and food, just the necessities. Like clothing, food, gasoline. That's it.
Well, we already have gasoline tax on the ass.
Well, right.
Come on.
But everything else has the VAT tax, just like Europe. That's value-added tax.
Yeah.
You buy a DVD, you buy a video game, you buy, electronics, what have you.
Mm-hmm.
It's got that tax on it.
Yeah, and that's actually a big complaint. A lot of people when they come over to the United States because they'll see the price on something and they'll take it to the register and then it's that plus whatever because the tax is never added to the price of the product, and it usually drives a lot of people nuts.
Which it's we actually did that at a restaurant I worked at. It's fairly easy just to program the computer to you know, we would have the price on the menu say a drink is $5, and it was actually $5. And that's just a matter of, and that really has nothing to do with our tax system. That's just, I think that's American mindset of businesses going, hey, this is what you're paying in taxes. Don't blame us at your price. So I think it's just a very American attitude, you know.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know why that is. But I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're going to take another quick break, and we'll get back to you guys shortly.
Oh, hey there. If you guys are liking the content you're seeing here on the show, be sure to press that like and subscribe button right down there. And, of course, the bell notification. And if there's any content you'd like to see Jason and I go over, you know, kind of cover that, I'm more than happy to do that for you guys as well. So, again, reach out to us at the Donut Hole Show at gmail.com. And we'll get back with you guys and keep the content fresh and cover the stuff you guys want to see. Okay.
Alrighty, guys, we're back from the break. Decided to switch back over to the lavalier microphones, just to kind of give you another compare and contrast. Because, like I said, we're constantly trying to improve the show and make it better for you guys. You know, this was kind of one of those things we could very easily do real quick. And with all the stuff in production, like I said, this is all new to us. This isn't something we do, you know, on our, you know, before, you know, what am I trying to say here? You know, so we're all new to this. This is all, you know, new stuff. So we're trying to figure it out. And, you know, thank you guys for bearing with us as we try to figure it out, from that perspective. So like I said, we're testing out these lavalier microphones. I think we've narrowed it down to the digital interface on the computer being the biggest problem that we're facing as far as getting the cleanest audio signal. Hopefully, at least with this camera here, the video's improved, which should give us the ability to crop in and still be at 1080. And on this one, just gives us another perspective as well. So, which is, we've been using this camera pretty much since the get-go. But this one over here is new. So, anyway, there's that, and hopefully by next week we'll get something figured out as far as a digital audio recorder, so we're not having to fiddle with as much goofiness.
Yeah, and if we, you know, I'd also thought if we do the digital audio recorder and the lapel mics, it'll enable us to do interviews on the street, or, you know, who knows?
Mm-hmm.
That way we can, you know, it's also going to give us a very ability to do things other than just right here.
Yeah.
So I think that'd be good for you guys too. We can really start to vary it up and do a lot of different things that way.
Yeah. So as we grow and develop, we'll be bringing you guys different content and hopefully making it more new and fresh and what have you. And again, if you guys have stuff that you want to see us do or talk about or what have you, feel free to mention that down in the comments. Be sure to press the like and subscribe button. You know, share it with your friends, you know, if you're the kind of people that would like, you know, this kind of stuff, you know, share it and put it on Facebook and all that stuff. So anyway, I guess that's going to be it for this week. Sorry, it's a little light. Like I said, I think our brains are a little fried with dealing with some of these technical issues, and trying to figure out how to better serve you guys.
And after having a nice meaty episode last week and losing it, it's definitely that's in the forefront of our minds as well, as trying to get those things improved.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you guys for hanging out with us, and we'll see you again here next time. And again, all the way from our Nashville studios, you guys have yourself a good night.
Have a good one.